Good evening. The time is now, okay, let me see the time is now 6:10 p.m. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education special regular meeting for Monday, June 23rd, 2025 will please come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Heidi Cater,
Here.
Sheila Pryor, here. Sarah Johansson,
Here.
Horace Bende,
Here.
Valentina Ayers. Can
I do. I hear.
making a note that she's on Zoom. Dan Ginestra,
Here.
Milan Sahoni,
Present.
Chase Anderson.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Director Ayers has joined us today via Zoom. Hello, Valentina. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda items. There is no consent agenda for this meeting. Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded?
Would now be the time for me to move my amendment?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Mr. Chair, I motion to amend the agenda as it stands to add an audience opportunity to address the board.
Okay, so noted.
A second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Wait a minute. What are we voting on?
Voting
Are we voting on the amendment or are we voting on the agenda? So we need to state that.
The agenda.
Okay, Director Ginestra has asked for an amendment to add an item on the agenda to add the public opportunity to speak. And he has moved that and ID has seconded it.
You got first and a second, but due to the remote nature, everything has to be a roll call vote during this meeting.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, so that is what we are looking at. We are voting on the amendment to the agenda. So this will be by roll call. Sheila?
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Sarah Johansson,
Yes.
Horace Bende,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers. Dan Ginestra,
yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes. The amendment passes. So now we go back to the whole agenda, right? Okay, so who wants to move the agenda with the amendment, final agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is also a roll call vote. Sheila, please.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers. Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Sarah Johansson,
Yes.
Horace Bende,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Milan Sahoni.
Yes. The motion carries. We have an agenda. So what we'll do, Amy, is we'll add the public comments before any of the other items. So we have somebody, right? We have Cheryl Olsen. Does she need to fill out a form? Well, has she filled out a form?
There are no forms.
Okay, we'll let it go. Okay, we'll let it go. That's fine. Cheryl, please.
Thank you, School Board, for allowing me to speak. I really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you for serving in this role. You have to make a lot of hard decisions, and I'm here to speak on one of the decisions you'd like to make tonight. I have concerns about the vote to move school board elections to even years. It's long been a controversy whether that's a good thing to do or not. I have long supported odd-year school board elections for many reasons. I believe you have a possible larger and higher quality pool of candidates that are willing to run and serve on the school board when elections are held in odd years because of less partisanship and the zoo that a lot of elections have become. I also believe that it's an opportunity for community to learn about and focus on local issues and their local leaders instead of being distracted with larger elections, many multiple candidates that they need to learn about and make a decision on. I also think that it helps to keep the partisanship down. I know there was a long discussion at the May work session and partisanship came up a lot. And I agree that there's not a lot we can do about it seeping into our elections and our school districts. But why feed that? Why create the opportunity for a school board election to be viewed as partisan and have your candidates forced to talk about issues that maybe don't affect our district or put their lawn sign next to one candidate or another, and right away your community has put you in a box. And they may or may not respect or listen to your opinion while they're serving down the road. That said, there are many benefits to moving the elections to even years. And I think it's important to acknowledge that there are benefits that we could see. Saving the money, of course, is, I think, a top priority for this district because we are fiscally conservative, and I can appreciate that you want to save the money. I think a lot of the discussion at the May work session had to do with saving the money, the benefits of all elections being at the same time for our community. It lowers confusion when we have to have consolidated polling places during the school board election, etc. So I'm not saying it would be a tragedy to move our elections to even years. My main objection is the process by which it reached this point. I think that you're making this decision with next to zero community input. I think that there was a conversation at March or April work session, and that was because the legislature was thinking of moving it to be mandatory to move elections. Okay, when that didn't happen, you then had a long, good conversation about whether to do this or not about 4 weeks ago, I believe, in the May work session. It was a good conversation, and I would encourage anyone in the community to watch the YouTube recording of that conversation. All of you had very good thoughts on it. I think that one of the arguments in that conversation was that you wanted more opportunity for the community to vote because there was larger turnout in even years. That's true. But you're taking this vote with no community opportunity for input, thoughts, or anything. I think tonight is the opposite of wanting community involvement and transparency. And please, please, please don't act as a body in a way that continues to erode public trust and confidence. That's all I'm asking is for you to please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, let's move on to the next. I'm sorry?
Someone else would like to speak.
Oh, sorry, okay. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello, good evening. I wasn't planning on speaking, but since I have the opportunity. So we just heard David give a board presentation on funding. And on behalf of families, I have my own students in the district, and I'm a teacher. And on behalf of the other teachers, I'm also the Teachers Union president. Looking at currently, we know that in the next biennium, we are expected to receive that inflationary increase, but we know that in the following biennium, we're probably going to have no increase at all, potentially even cuts. And we were asking questions about special ed funding, and that's real concerning. The savings of over $100 $1,000 every 2 years. That's pretty significant. Looking at reducing class sizes, relieving teacher workload, impacting special education, prioritizing putting the funding into classrooms and teachers. When we look at the community survey that went out, and by and large, what the community was saying was classrooms and teachers are where the highest impact we know is for our learners. And the optics of it are what's I feel the most important. And looking at just the financial impact alone, just given what we know is on the horizon, to me, having to prioritize that and putting that funding where it really matters, just knowing that we don't know, there's a lot of unknowns, as we just discussed and we're listening to David. I ask that you really think about that as we're looking. We don't want to end up having to cut teachers, having to be increasing class sizes again, and losing good teachers and having it affect our students. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. No more, right, Amy? That's it? Okay. All right. So let's move on. We have 2 items on the agenda this evening, the admin reports and recommendations, and the other item is the board action. In the first administration item, Dr. Anderson will seek board approval of the identified official with authority, also known as Iowa, as required annually by the Minnesota Department of Education. Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll share the following information from the board packet in regard to what this action item entails. The Minnesota Department of Education requires that school districts must annually designate an identified official with authority to comply with the MNIT, which is the Minnesota Information Technology Enterprise Identity and Access Management Standard. It's a mouthful, which stands that all user access rights to Minnesota state systems must be reviewed and recertified at least annually. The identified official with authority will assign job duties and authorize external users access to MDE secure systems for their local education association or agency. The board recommends to authorize Chase Anderson, me, to act as the identified official with authority for Wayzata Public Schools. Recommended action, we'll turn that over to the board to read the action, and you can take it from there.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So, colleague, the recommended action is to approve the attached resolution naming Chase Anderson to act as the identified official with authority for Wayzata Public School District. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. Oh, sorry. Valentina, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I will be talking maybe a lengthy way, but the whole idea why I am joining is that I'm trying to also participate. What happened is I want to say thank you, first of all, to Amy, who went above and beyond and organizing that I can join this meeting and I can participate, and Millen for sharing some information. We had a agenda planning meeting where we discussed about possibility, since this is an important topic, allowing all 7 of us to participate. And somehow I was on vacation. In fact, I'm still on the way back home, severely jet lagged. Somehow the discussion about moving this meeting to 24th, 25th, or 26th changed. I don't know how, even though during agenda planning meeting where chair, vice chair, and superintendent was present, and I was present there, there was no opposition.
Valentina, can you hear me?
To be honest, when I heard that about nonpartisan, this is the first sign for me how partisan it can be, because again, the discussion was we're going to be doing it on different
Point of order.
date.
I don't think
Yes. Valentina, Valentina, can you hear me, Valentina? Can she hear you? Yeah.
I don't. Valentina?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I think she can hear you. Okay, can you hear me? This is Mil. Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay, so can you hold off on that for a later item on the agenda? Let's just discuss the motion on hand right now, approval of Dr. Anderson for the Iowa Authority. So we have moved that, seconded that, and this is a discussion on that specific item. So if you could please hold off on your comments for, we'll let you talk, but not at this, not in this item of the agenda. Okay. So hold off on that, and then we will finish the discussion. We will take a yeah. That's the microphone. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me better? Okay. So I think we turned the position of the microphone that you were listening to earlier. So maybe this will work better. Okay. So what I was going to say was, let's hold off on your comments for now. This is a discussion part of the vote on the approval of Chase Anderson as the authority. Okay. And so if you do not have any comments on that, let's move on. Let's see if the rest of the board has any comments, and then we'll do a roll call vote. Okay? Anybody else has a comment? Do you have a comment on this specific item, Valentina? Do you have any comment on this specific item? Okay. All right. So let's go with a roll call vote. Sheila will call the roll.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers, Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Sarah Johansson,
Yes.
Paris Bende,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the motion passes. Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Anderson. All right, so the next Finance Director, David Draskowicz, will seek board approval for the prelim budget for fiscal year 2025-26. David?
Good evening, Superintendent Chase, board members. District administration recommends that you recommends the following revenue and expenditure budget by fund for FY 25-26 fiscal year. I know we went over this through a presentation during the work session, so I'll just skip to the end. Revenues over expenditures. So the revenues will be $277,672,519. Total expenditures for 25-26 will be $285,992,566. My recommendation is to approve the preliminary budget for the FY 25-26 fiscal year.
All right, thank you, David. So board members, the recommended action is to approve the prelim budget for the 2025-26 fiscal year. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion?
I have a comment. Thank you. This is the most important job that a board can do. It is our number one job to approve a budget. It is not something that happens in 30 seconds at a board meeting. It's a multi-year process. Thank you to the team for guiding our district to this point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so if there are no comments, this is also a roll call vote. Sheila, if you could please.
Paris Bende,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers, Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Sarah Johansson,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the motion passes. Thank you, and thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, so the final item on the agenda this evening is board action regarding even-year elections. This item is brought forward to establish if the Wayzata School Board, I think we lost connection, did we? Okay, never mind. Okay, sorry about that. This item is brought forward to establish if the Wayzata School Board will be pursuing changing from odd year to even year elections. Should this initial vote pass, the school board will vote on which of the two resolutions it plans to pursue. Should the vote on changing from odd year to even year elections not pass, there will not be a follow-up vote on the election resolutions. The motion statement is to adopt a resolution moving Wayzata School Board elections from odd years to even year elections. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? Okay, go ahead, Valentina. No, you can continue where I cut you off. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, you can continue, I think.
No, actually, I would say our technology department and Amy works so well. She fixed it. They fixed very quickly. I hear very well right now.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that, as I said, I wanted to say thank you to Amy for doing going above and beyond and organizing this meeting this way. I had been out of the country. I'm in fact still on the way back home. And this is how technology allows to participate. I just wanted to point out that we had a gender planning meeting and I was involved there. Chair, vice chair, and superintendent were present there. We discussed about, since it's quite a sensitive topic, that all 7 of us should be present. And especially when we had work session where you can already gauge who is leaning towards what kind of decision. Just simply eliminating somebody can change completely the outcome. So this one, me being able to connect via Zoom allows me to participate. The only thing I'm not sure why when we made decision that we will change the date, all of a sudden within 2 weeks, things changed back to 23rd. Yes, the discussion was maybe that it might be saving $350 because of if you meet on different dates, then it's $50 per school board member need to be paid. But we're talking about $100,000 here. So I'm not sure what is comparison. And as I said again, I just started hearing about nonpartisan. This is one of example when I almost got eliminated. But again, thanks for several people at our board. This allowed me to participate. And another one was discussion was brought up that this keeping election during odd years allows people who have less money to participate. I have to disagree with it because as if right now we have in many school districts teacher unions supporting certain candidates and choosing not to support others. We cannot compete with teacher unions money, for example. And I would like to point it out, I have nothing against teachers. In fact, I'm working at school myself, so it'll be odd. If anything, I would say probably teachers also, not all teachers sign up for social emotional. Teachers probably sign up for this job because they like teaching, but all of a sudden society is asking them to do more, almost like to parent. So arguably, I would say that probably not all teachers would like to be parents to students. They just want to teach students and be mentors in their lives. And another one I wanted to point it out that at work session presentation, we found out that in the past was just 5% of electorate was participating. So it's 5% of people who are making decision for school district. 2021 changed the picture. More people started participating for some reasons because, and I don't think that it is so much to do party lines and all. It's just that, like we heard even during presentation from Hazel, that we as a, district number 1 in education, we're missing about over 900 students because our families are choosing to go somewhere else because values do not align. And it's nothing wrong that some parents disagree, and it allows parents to participate in elections and then to say their opinion. I don't think that 5% of people should be making decision for school districts. And moving to even year election, first of all, I would say, I mean, it's small, but still, it will eliminate additional work for Amy. She has to hold quite a bit of things. And I'm going to say also clarify that Amy had been, if anything, Amy had been very nonpartisan. She never showed any her opinions. Yeah. And second one is, yes, it's $100,000, but it's still money every 2 years. So you can use that money for something else. But for biggest one for me is that moving to even years, it allows, I mean, to be honest, if you look at the what happened, I mean, historically, more people will be participating, and that allows then from, I mean, more people are making decisions for school district, not just 5%, not just groups on Facebooks, groups on organized groups, so to speak, and just a minute, sorry. One more thing I wanted to say that the last election when I was participating, I want just to remind that teacher union was supporting 3 candidates. Arguably, I would say that then these 3 candidates should not be involved in contract negotiation because there is a conflict of interest there. And it was with previous teacher union representative. Hopefully with this, with new teacher union, it'll be different. Because again, I don't know why some communities are not eager to hear different opinion. Just because we have a different opinion, it doesn't mean that we are completely opposing something. In fact, actually, being at school board, I found that with some school board members, we can actually work across the aisle and we can discuss things because we have common, we need to find something in common in us. Something in common, I believe it is 3 R's, reading, arithmetic, and writing. That's the most important thing why we're sending our students to school. And other, arguably, again, teachers, not all teachers have a psychological degree to do social emotional teaching. And I think that parents need to do parenting and schools need to bring free hours into back to basics. We're not asking a lot. So my opinion would be that I would support moving to even year election and moving to a 3-year cycle.
Hold on,
Because
Valentina,
I feel
Valentina,
it
we
is odd for me to.
Valentina, can you hear me? The 3-year is not, we may get there, but right now we are focusing on just whether we want even year or odd year elections.
Yep.
So hold your thoughts on
I
the
just,
other one.
to be honest, if we never ended up that year, I would not be able to voice that opinion. That's why I'm just saying, and I'm done. My point is, I don't feel comfortable extending one more year for myself. It feels like, a politician just choosing. I feel like it will be more transparent if we come up to even years by doing 3 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, any discussion? Yes, Heidi.
So I think it's important to have this whole picture in context, right? So a few months ago, it was suggested at the legislature that there might have been a requirement for us to go through with this vote. However, when the omnibus bill was signed, which I think was May 20-something, May 23rd, 25th, something like that, which was after our last work session, it didn't move forward. And so in my perspective, that rush of having to make the decision is not there anymore. And so that the slide that's up on my screen right now was when we were trying to figure out how this would work if the legislature had put that into the omnibus bill. So we don't have that right now. So the action that's in front of us is not a recommendation through the administration. And I think it is a recommendation from the chair, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I also have concerns that we have not appropriately engaged our school community in this decision, because we're not at this point of the rush to have to make the decision. And so in my perspective, at a bare minimum, we can now take this to our Citizens Finance Committee to talk about that angle. We can take it to SciTac. We can take it to our Liaisons Committee. We can take it to our strategic partners. The way that Wayzata has typically done things is in a very measured way. It may take some more time, but we get it right. And I want to get this right. I am not in opposition of us saving money. 100%, I want to save money any which way we can so that we can put it into our classrooms. I think there are more creative ways that we can do that. I think that we could talk about aligning our board votes with levies and bonds, because it's my understanding that our levies and bonds come up for a vote for election as our school needs them. And so is there a pathway for that? Are there different ways that we can come by this money rather than having to make this fast of a decision? So that's kind of where I stand. I have more questions, but I'll let my colleagues speak.
Okay, go ahead, Sheila.
So I have a question about that with the levies and bonds and the things that I know in the past when we have had, when we, like the technology levy, we had some flexibility in when we could have it because, you had like a buffer. You could kind of choose your year. So when we had that with the technology levy, would we not also have that with other things that we're bringing to the voters? So if we move to even years, then we could kind of get on that schedule as well to save money with elections, which is why we moved the technology levy to when it was.
It's my understanding from asking that we would not be changing the way that our bonds and levies are run. we would be continuing to do them as needs arise. So for example, we have an April, potentially, an April vote on a referendum. It would continue to stay that way, right?
So, but that's going to be in April, that's already not in November, so we're choosing to do that outside of the normal election time anyway.
Correct. And to run that is also the same cost as running a school board election, or we have every reason to believe it is. We don't, we haven't done it yet, so we don't know for sure, but as far as
I guess I don't see how the two are related then, because if we're already doing that and it's not related to elections, we're just talking about elections. I just want to make sure I'm clear on like what.
anytime, so my point is, anytime we're going to the ballot, anytime we're asking people to come out to vote for things for school, it costs us $100,000, right? So we could, rather than having, in my perspective, we could try to start getting on a different schedule so that we have our school board elections and our bonds and levies happening on the same ballot, so that it's schools happening all at once. You're asking people to focus on schools.
I said what we're.
So that,
But we're not talking about that right now. I do not see how they're related. We could maybe choose to do that later, but right now we're just talking about board elections on even or odd years. And yes, it would be great if everything else was aligned.
But what I'm saying is we could come up with more creative solutions rather than just having these two in front of us. In my perspective, these are not our only two options.
I just needed to make a point of clarification, and then I'll speak later. We have aligned general operating referenda with school board elections, and the whole purpose of that was that we were engaging our community in a conversation that centered our district and our district leadership. 2017 was the last example of when we did a general operating levy and a school board election, and it worked really well for the two.
The one that's coming up soon, though, is going to be in April and not in November.
I think that is a portion because when we're doing a building in construction, as was noted tonight and has been noted in the past, there's a number of timelines and things. And as we think about when we need to have the money ready, and so we take a number of different votes where we go out and ask our voters for money. One of them is on a bonding bill or facilities that may have some other constraints or timelines depending on when we can get the money and when we can do the construction and when we can get the supplies and all of those things. There's the general operating levy in which we ask the voters to renew. I know there's been given some board authority to auto-renew those. That's not a conversation that we've had at this table yet. And I know we've had a preliminary, but that's not there. But there has been a consistent commitment, and again, 2017 was that one, when we go out and ask the voters for our own directed referendum that doesn't connect with construction, that has been tied to school board elections. And that timing has been serendipitous in centering district issues.
Yeah, but Heidi, even I had similar question. And again, Sarah, to your point, whenever there is a need, like let's say potential April 2026, yes, unfortunately, we'll have to go off cycle, whether it is odd year or even year, right? And then wherever possible, again, we want to align it with school board election, whether it is odd year or even year. So again, that's where, Sheila, I agree with you. I don't see how they are connected. And again, whether we move odd or even year, we still have to make every attempt to align all these levies and everything with whenever the next school board election is. So again, I'm not able to connect the dots. Again, fully understand your point that, hey, it has to be together so we don't spend more money either even year or odd year. So.
Okay. Go.
Go ahead. I have more comments, but I'll let you go.
So to your point, Heidi, about the legislature not doing anything with the omnibus bill, we have always complained that the legislature does not let us have local control. This is a great opportunity for us to have local control, and we are now saying we want to wait for the legislature to do that, right? So I didn't get the connection for that. let me finish first. The other thing I heard somebody saying that there is no difference in cost whether the referendum is held during an odd year or during an even year. Then why are we even bringing that into this picture? Right? And that is what I think earlier in an email conversation, that is what I heard or saw somebody mention that the referendum, for example, we have next year in April, will have the same cost whether we do an odd year election or even year election. So that's number one. Number two, to me, two most important things are the cost savings and the phenomenally higher voting percentage that we see in even year elections. All this talk about non-partisanship, partisanship, I think is overblown. Like I mentioned in the last meeting, I gave my personal example of how somebody in an odd year election put me in a Democratic bucket. They said I was a Democrat because of my values, because of what I was running on. So how can somebody say that this will not happen in an even year election also? It doesn't matter which election you have. If you have values, if you stand for something, people don't take a minute to label you as a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter. They become partisan right away. Thank you. Sarah? Dan?
Well, thank you. We've had I think a very diverse and dynamic conversation on this issue for a while now. And I think as I've been reflecting and thinking on what everyone said, I think I'm drawn in many ways to a larger point that I think goes beyond the budget or spending or turnout. It is a question of whether or not we want to make the investment in having an election where we can tell our own story, talk about our own challenges, our own needs as a district, without that national rhetoric that is so misleading, so based in not what public education does or not what school boards do. Come on in. And we have two great examples, I think. One is 2022, where we had a special election for school board. The other is 2023, where we had an odd year election. And we look at what happened in 2022, where all the rhetoric was. All right, we were hearing stuff about, there are these books that need to be banned. We were hearing teachers are teaching things that are inappropriate. There's stuff in the curriculum that's not acceptable. And the common thread through all of that was people need to run for the school board so that they can ban the books, so that they can discipline the teachers, so that they can rewrite the curriculum to their own ends. Those are not things that school boards or school board members do, period. Yet because of the national rhetoric, that national narrative, people believe that. We fast forward 1 year later and our teachers feel safe doing their jobs. We've made this critical investment, as we have now for many years, in telling Wayzata's story. So we're talking about how we can lower class sizes. We're talking about the district's budget. We're talking about our spending. We're having an election that is based in Wayzata Public Schools, that is based in facts, that is based in our ability to tell our story.
Sarah has yielded the floor to you. Go ahead.
That we can sit down at the table and we can discuss, because all parents and teachers, we are concerned about, we have similarities. We don't have that kind of big issue. We don't have complete different values. For us, some things we might disagree, but that's what we need to be able to discuss. If you, like even right now is happening, don't want us to voice our opinion. Well, to be honest, schools belong to all of us. We are talking about equity here. I would like to be equally being involved in our kids' education. And as a parent, And to be honest, as a, myself, being able to take advantage from what my teachers were able to bring. So I'm not sure how can you separate national level and local level. You want it or not, it's still affecting. Many school districts in Minnesota have exactly the same issues, and they moved to even years without any problems. And in fact, actually quite a bit, thanks to Amy, quite a bit of school district did even 5-year, extending their serving so that school district don't have to in our case, it's $100,000 more spending. So, and I even checked with our other school districts, asking if community opposed or they had some backlash. Community in many school districts actually took it as is. I have myself personally difficulty with that. But what I want to point out, many school districts in Minnesota moved to even years without any problems. And I'm not sure what is the difficulty here, to be honest. Thank you.
Okay. I have a couple of points. So every election is open to every citizen. Candidates and community members actively engage in getting out the vote efforts, including information sharing, directions to polling places, setting up calling trees about voting. There's a number of get out the vote efforts that happen. Extended polling opportunities, rideshare services. I align that does not always produce large amounts of voters in elections, and that is really an important factor. At the same time, there's also a number of efforts that show that the people that have made the efforts to go to the polls have learned about school issues, and they are voting because they have an opinion and they want to express it. I fully support the need to increase informed turnout in all elections. And I agree as well that there are merits to even and odd year elections, and that warrants information collection, community input, and seeking understanding. This is not the time or the process for this school board to make this decision. And I'm going to give a couple points why. The June 9th board meeting, we heard in public comment about the level of intentionality that previous boards went into in holding elections in the odd years. And they did so to ensure a focus on school-specific issues. They did not do it rash. They did not do it quickly. They sought input, and they made an informed decision. Our community deserves the opportunity to center our children and our schools in a time and space where district issues can take center stage. Second of all, we have a strong commitment to nonpartisan. This is almost impossible to do in 2025. I've talked ad nauseum about that. This cannot be, it's hard to avoid in odd year elections. It will, I think our speaker just said something about, we will only feed it if we do it in even year elections. I would like to draw into point the 22 special election, where there were 3 candidates. The parties lined up for each candidate that they thought best aligned with their values, and there was one candidate that was out in affiliation. That candidate identifies it as being beat up by both sides and could not get airspace in any place, and can detail specific examples of their negative experience. The financial considerations, I think you heard me talk a lot about fiscal conservatism and spending, and I am first to say that we need to be cautious. We have a $277+ million budget. The cost of a $100,000 election is 0.00036%. And this will not eliminate our need to hold off-year elections. We need to be conservative. We need to look at class sizes. We need to create excellent opportunities for students. 0.00036% is not going to move that needle. Mindful effort from this body in collaboration with the administration might. Next, Ehlers, who's a partner of ours, wrote in their newsletter recently to all school districts that and it was sent to all newsletters, that It will be even, and I quote now, it will be even more challenging, contentious, and loud to run elections in even years. And this will take more, a person could fill in the blank, funds, staff, et cetera, to get attention. That will happen for school districts going out to ask for votes. That will also impact our candidates. We want candidates who are dedicated to this district and who can speak eloquently about school district issues, and they deserve the attention of our community. So that leads me to what is the problem we are trying to solve and what is the urgency? We don't have to make this decision today. That doesn't mean future boards wouldn't make that decision, but we have a precedent to be informed. We've not reached out to District Liaison, the CFAC, engaged Morris Letterman, or sought any formal public input. We are holding this vote at a special meeting in the summer when previous materials indicated a vote at the regular meeting on June 9th. There has not been adequate community input. We owe it to our community to take the time and to seek the input and to educate ourselves to ensure that all considerations and impact are explored and understood. This vote is in direct opposition to intentional actions by previous boards. And I will just underscore again that we owe it to our students and our community to pause, to learn, and to engage our stakeholders in this most consequential decision.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to say something. So when we found out how much money we would be saving, I think that came as a surprise to me. I've thought long and hard about this issue. $100,000 every 2 years, that's the equivalent of a part-time teacher. I mean, that's another PLC coach. That's another part-time specialist somewhere. When you think of it in those terms, I would like to put us on the path to those cost savings sooner rather than later. I think in terms of an investment, if we're looking at this as an investment, what are we getting from our investment? I don't think we're getting much from our investment. I think we're getting, yes. So I had the pleasure to run 2 years in a row. I ran for the special election to replace C.M. Falconer, and then I ran again the next year, so because that term ended. So I ran in 2022 and 2023. The level of partisanship was the same in both years. I think that is just the world we live in right now. So I don't know that keeping partisanship out of it is happening, so why are we spending this money on it if it's not happening? If we want to talk about community input, we did receive a lot of emails. We've had people come talk to the board. I don't know. I mean, my impression is that it's kind of cost or partisanship, and that those are kind of the main issues. And so then I ask again, if we're not keeping partisanship out, why are we spending the money? In terms of awareness of school district issues. So more voters more people coming out to vote means more people being aware of the school district issues, because voters know they need to be informed on election day and the even years, but in the odd years, most of them don't even know there's an election happening. So in some ways, I feel like what I'm hearing is almost counterintuitive. I'm like, you will get more people to know about the things if you make it in an even year. So I would.
All right, I just want.
That's all I have.
I just want to make can I speak first? Okay. I want to make a comment on the 0.00036%, and that brought back memories for me almost 24 years ago. I was laid off in 2001, couldn't find a job for a long time. And my friends used to tell me, oh, unemployment is very, very low, you shouldn't worry, it'll happen very soon. And I could not find a job for 18 months. For somebody that is unemployed, the unemployment rate is 100%. For kids or teachers that have lost their jobs, kids that cannot have access to books or curriculum because of that 0.00036%, for them, it's 100%. So to say that 0.00036% does not matter, I don't know if that is appropriate, because those 0.00036% adds up to the 100%. Every penny that we can save, we should be looking at and trying to save. And like Sheila said, I'm not convinced that we will remain nonpartisan if we continue with odd years. It's not going to happen. This is not the age we are living in. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we've had, I think, a lot of important questions asked, and I think I'll try to do my best to answer a lot of them. I think one question, put forward was, what are we getting in return? To me, that stood out very obviously. We're not fighting national battles at the local area. When I listen to candidates who ran in 2022, people who were involved in those elections, what I hear is that it was all about these controversial books that weren't even in our library, weren't a part of the curriculum or anything like that. So we're having to play defense on something that isn't part of our story. We talk about the money. $100,000 could be the cost. It could be much lower. We don't know. And so it's also important to consider how those dollars would hypothetically be spent. I think when we talk about a $277 million budget, I think we know there are a lot of needs. And so it would appear, I think, very logical or realistic to say that, well, those dollars are probably going to be eaten up by some other more immediate need. Okay, it's not going to be something we can allocate, toward hiring a teacher and bringing them into our Wayzata Public Schools family. I wish it were so, but I think that's unrealistic. We talked about just getting our message out and how much challenge there is there. And so what are we getting? We're number one on people's ballots. I'm going to read to you next year, 2026, an even numbered year, who all is going to be on the ballot. All right. U.S. Senator, U.S. Congress, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Auditor, State Senate, State House of Representatives, County Park Commissioner, County Sheriff, County Attorney, City Council, Mayor, and then School Board. I think I probably brought up some offices who you couldn't name the person. So we're already talking about lower name ID in an even year election to begin with. And so when you do the counting, Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education, that election could be 15th on the list, okay? And this is going from random, where I picked Plymouth Precinct 1, which is the northwest corner of Plymouth. I drew precincts by random. So it is an incredible benefit to tell our story in an odd-numbered year, to not be waging defense and having to do damage control for something that doesn't even relate to us, having to have a stance on these very national, sensationalist-driven narratives. We can tell our own story, run our own campaigns, not be fighting it out with so many other people running so many other offices, to just have someone host our lawn sign in their yard, let's say. And we can raise engagement. We can have candidates, who put their best foot forward, who are, knowledgeable and engaged and do wonderful, wonderful work. So to me, the vote to stay with odd-numbered years is an obvious one. But I respect those who will say go to even. And that concludes my remarks.
All right. If there are no other comments, no more discussion, I'm going to read the motion statement again. Adopt a resolution moving Wayzata School Board elections from odd year to even year elections. Moved and seconded, discussed. This is a roll call vote, Sheila.
Dan Ginestra.
And for point of information, a yes vote is to move to even years.
That is correct.
Okay. I vote no.
Sarah Johansson.
No.
Paris Bende.
Yes.
Sheila Pryor. Yes. Heidi Cater.
No.
Valentina Ayers. Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the
That's
motion
four.
passes.
That's 4 yeses and 3 nos.
Sorry about that. Yes, so the motion passes. Thank you. All right, so as I said earlier, because we have voted to go to even years, now we have to decide, as the chart on that screen shows, whether to. I'll read the comments first, and then you will understand. I'm going to go with the 5-year option where we extend the term, and I'll tell you why we do this. I have spoken to MSBA, and basically what they said was most of the districts that have moved to the even years in the last decade or so have chosen to go to the 5-year option, and then we will have a discussion on that. It doesn't matter. I could take the 3-year first or the 5-year first. It probably won't change the final result. So next we have a resolution providing that school board general elections held after 2023 shall be held on the even numbered years. In accordance with the attached resolution, the Wayzata Public Schools School Board shall extend the current district members' terms by 1 year. The term of office of school board members that would otherwise expire on the first Monday of January 2026 shall be extended to expire on the first Monday in January of 2027. The term of office of school board members that would otherwise expire on the first Monday of January 2028 shall be extended to expire on the first Monday in January 2029. The school board shall notify the county auditor of its determination to hold its general election in November of the even numbered year to 2026 and thereafter. So the motion statement is to adopt the resolution adding 1 year to all current Wayzata school board members' terms, resulting in even year election henceforth. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? No, the motion is to extend the term of the board members by 1 year. So I'm asking for a motion. This is my second call for a motion. Is there a motion?
Yes, motion.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails. All right, next we have a resolution providing that school board general elections held in 2025 and 2027 shall be 3-year terms, and elections held after 2027 shall be held in the even numbered years. In accordance with the attached resolution, the Wayzata Public Schools School Board shall transition from elections held in odd number year to elections held in even numbered years. The terms of office of school board members elected in 2025 and 2027 shall be for 3 years. The term of office of school board members elected in 2028 thereafter would be elected for 4-year terms. The school board shall notify the county auditor of its determination to hold its general election in November of the even numbered year in 2028 and thereafter. So the motion statement for this resolution is to adopt the resolution establishing 3-year terms for the school board members elected in 2025 and 2027, and 4-year terms for school board members elected in 2028 and thereafter, resulting in even year elections henceforth. Is there a motion?
I move.
Move. Is there a second?
Second,
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion?
I guess I would like to explain my vote in this case. It does feel better to not extend my current term because when I was elected, the voters did not elect me for 5 years. We will not see the cost savings now until 2028, but we will eventually see the cost savings. I did really struggle with this particular part of the decision because I do want to see those cost savings very soon, but I feel for the voters and for transparency reasons that the 3-year term is the right choice.
Anyone else, Paras?
Yeah, this has been really difficult for me as well. Again, my primary driver was operational efficiency, again, trust in our community, and then obviously the financial benefits. So if I apply those three, then ideally we should have extended this one-year term for everybody. But again, I understand that is not what everyone voted on. So again, it was hard. I'm still going to go with one-year extension because that's why I voted yes for the first resolution. But that no way in shape means any disrespect towards anyone who voted and put their confidence and trust in us. Again, just want to say that as I vote. Thanks.
Yes.
I will be supporting shortening our upcoming school board terms as elected by 1 year to 3 years to get us on the even year cycle. It affords the people the right to vote. It provides for that transparency, especially in the lead up to a very significant vote coming up next spring.
Okay, I'm going to just make a quick comment. Like Paras and Sheila, I struggled with the 5-year versus the 3-year choice. And I agree with Paras that saving $200,000, because if we move to a 5-year extension, that saving is right away. We won't spend any money henceforth. But I also agree with Sheila that that's kind of a compromise by not having odd-year elections at all, but having this 3-year term and spending another $200,000. We have spent so many thousands of dollars over the years. So I am leaning towards, I think I'm going to vote a yes on the 3-year reduction of term for the next election and then the election in 2027. Anyone else have a comment? All right. If not, I'm going to read the motion statement again. Is to adopt the resolution establishing 3 years terms for the school board members elected in 2025 and 2027, and 4-year terms for school board members elected in 2028 and thereafter, resulting in even year elections henceforth. This is a roll call vote, Sheila.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Sarah Johansson,
No.
Paras Bende,
No.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Heidi Cater,
No.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes,
That's 4 votes yes, 3 votes no.
the motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, this concludes the Wayzata Public Schools special regular board meeting. The next regular school board meeting will be on Monday, July 14th. And I forgot to thank Amy again. Thank you, Amy, so much for I cannot tell you how grateful I am for all the effort that you made, and Valentina for you to be able to join. And I really appreciate that. This actually is very dear and near to me, including everyone in our decision as much as possible. So thank you, Amy, for all the work you did. This concludes the Wayzata Public Schools special regular board meeting. The next regular school board meeting will be on Monday, July 14th. The time is now 7:19. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? I'm sorry, this is also roll call vote, right? Yes, it is, sorry.
Sarah Johansson,
Yes.
Paras Bende,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the motion carries. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education special regular meeting for Monday, June 23rd, 2025 is adjourned.